If you have pew Bibles, open them please to Luke 24. I want you to see, I'm not making it up. This story is really in there, all the things I'm going to say. Luke 24. Luke 24, verse 13. Bethany, if you have it, I'll start. You do? All right. So, Elaine, do you have it? Then we can start. That very day. Now, what day is this? This is the first Easter morning. That very day. This is coming immediately after the women have found the empty tomb and an angel there which told them Jesus isn't here. He's risen. That very day. Two of them were going to a village named Emmaus, and I don't like that translation, going. It's the simplest thing. The word means walking. Back in the day, there were two ways you got somewhere. You walked, or you were on the back of a mule. And we often talk about, oh, I'm going, I went. We mean so many things by that. It's so important to realize in the Bible, when it says someone was going, they're walking. And the journey from Jerusalem to Emmaus was 7 miles. I was trying to figure out, what is a 7-mile walk from here? You could walk to Wellesley College and back. But would you ever do that? You could walk to the Natick Mall. But anyone who goes to the Natick Mall isn't going to walk. But anyway, a 7-mile walk. I mean, that's a good 2 hours. And since they're not wearing New Balance, that's more likely 3 hours or 4 hours, a 4-hour walk. You know, the children left. I noticed them. I saw them and I thought, I'll give them a children's sermon. Because there's a beautiful sermon here. And I'll just give it to you. These disciples are very confused. The women told them Jesus had risen from the dead, but they haven't seen it. All they know is their dreams have died. You'll see this phrase later, but we had hoped. That's what they said, but we had hoped. What happens when your dreams die? I was going to say to the kids, what happens when you don't make the team? What happens when you find a friend has shut you out? What happens when you don't get picked for the part in the play? What happens when you don't get the right score on the test? What happens? There's something wonderful in this passage. It says, go on a long walk with a friend. And it also says that in the course of that walk, you may find the living Christ walking with you. And then it says, eat something. But anyway, there's no children here, so we'll just let that one go. So they were going to Emmaus, a 7-mile walk, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. I mean, also, you've got to remember this. They are walking on a road strewn with discarded palm leaves. Remember 1 week before? The parade is over. It's not Hosanna now, it's Hosanna. All right, I'm on verse 15. While they were talking and discussing together, Jesus himself drew near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, what are you all talking about? And then you got to see this next line. Pay attention. It says they stood still. When Jesus says, what are you talking about? It brought them to a halt. And they looked sad. They looked morose. They looked melancholy. Then one of them says, are you the only person who doesn't know what happened? I'm not going to go through every line, because now they're going to give a long speech. A long speech. Where is it where they say, oh yes, verse 21. This is what you've got to see. But we had hoped that he would be the one to redeem Israel. But we had hoped that he would be the one. But we had hoped that she would be the one. But we had hoped that that medical test would be the last one. But we had hoped that this was the day that child was going to get the confidence to be out there in the world and not still searching for themselves. But we had hoped that our congregation was going to finally get the right critical mass and take off. But we had hoped. How many things have we hoped for? And verse 25, and Jesus said to them, O foolish men, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Verse 28, so they drew near to the village in which they were going, and this you've got to slow down and see. John, are you with me? You are, right? All right. He appeared to be going further. Do you see that? Dennis, you see that? No, you didn't. They got near to Emmaus. They got near to the village, and it said Jesus appeared to be going further. Now that is an odd sentence. Here's what's going on. Have you ever crashed a party? Have you ever come upon two people talking and you join them? And you stay with them for a while, but then you realize they were on their way somewhere and you had not been invited to that somewhere. And so you, if you know your P's and Q's, separate yourself from them so they can go on their way. As they got close to lunchtime, as they got close to Emmaus, Jesus went on as if he were going farther. But the truth is, he just did not want to impose. And then they say, but it says, but they constrained him, saying, oh, stay with us. Can you see the subtle social thing that's happening there? I mean, really, that's the whole sermon, although I'm not going to preach on it. Because here is the eternal Word. Here is the Son of God modestly not imposing himself just for lunch on two men. It is an incredible act of reservation. It's an incredible dignifying of their freedom. Jesus never imposes. There's this beautiful text I grew up hearing in my Baptist youth from Revelation. It says, behold, I stand at the door. Yolanda, do you know this one? And what? Now, again, the speaker, behold, I stand at the door and knock, is Jesus. Supposedly, according to the Christian story, Jesus is the one we've been hoping for. the co-creator of the universe. Jesus stands at the door and knocks. Jesus doesn't barge in. Jesus doesn't impose. The incredible cosmic modesty of a God who waits for us, who gave us the great gift of freedom and will never revoke it. So that in that moment, it's up to us to open the door and decide. So all that is there in that phrase, but he appeared to be going farther. So as we go on, they say, "Stay with us, for it's toward evening, the day's now spent." So he went in to stay with them. And when he was at the table with them, he took the bread and blessed and broke it and gave it to them. And then their eyes were opened. And they recognized him. And he vanished from their sight. Then their eyes were opened. They recognized him. And then he vanished from their sight. So there's so many themes in this text. Here are all the things we're not going to talk about. We're not going to talk about the spirituality of a stunning encounter with disappointment. Believe it or not, it's not all supposed to be happy, this journey we're on. Someone recently said to me in this kind of silly, casual way, "Have you always had an upbeat personality?" And I'm thinking, well, they've seen me on a good day. And my response to them was, I have had the privilege and challenge of experiencing sadness. The privilege and challenge. Because if I did not know sadness, I wouldn't know happiness. If I didn't know loneliness, I wouldn't know the joy of companionship. So there's something in here about the spirituality of disappointment. That is part of the journey. There's something here, as I was going to tell the children, so I just had to tell you instead, about the spirituality of a long walk with someone you can just talk it all over with. And how over the course of such a walk, even though you weren't expecting, you weren't doing it to get an answer, you feel the presence of the Christ. We don't have time to talk about the spirituality of having something important right in front of you and you still can't see it. For a 3-hour walk, these two had Jesus right in front of them. They still couldn't figure it out. That's the way our lives are. Sometimes it's there, we can't see it yet. I don't know if it's possible. Does that discourage you? Or does it maybe say to you, right now, you think you can't see, but the living Christ is in front of you, is beside you. If you can just take one more step in front of the other, you will see it. Your eyes will be opened. But for now, just take the next step. We don't have time to talk about the spirituality of a time when someone asks you a question. Jesus said to them, "What's been going on?" And it says they stood still. The spirituality of a question that absolutely stops you. Because we get in our routines and we get in our beats and we take things for granted and we're in denial and we're not paying attention and we're walking around in our sleep, and sometimes we need the question that stops us. We don't have time talk about what happens, as Jesus said to them, when you have a slow heart. That's okay too. I don't think it's such a bad thing to have a slow heart. Some people's hearts are too fast. Don't join a cause yet. Don't sign the next petition. Don't wander off with the next Messiah. It's okay to have a slow heart. Sometimes that's all you can do. We don't have time to talk about those moments when the scales fall off your eyes and all of a sudden you get it. And we thank God for those beautiful moments. There's a fancy word for them, epiphanies. When you see what was there the whole time right in front of you, you get a glimpse. We don't have time for the beautiful spirituality of figuring it out later. See, the disciples had Jesus in front of them, and they didn't understand, but they did figure it out later. And that's okay too. Whether you make slow time or fast time, whether you run or walk, the key is you're on the path. You're on the journey. But all those things come down to this. Here's what I'm going to talk about now in 2 minutes. This is a text about people on a journey together. And it ends with a meal together. And in the breaking of the bread, they see the living Christ. That's what church is. Church is a group of people on a journey together, one foot in front of the other, one step in front of the other, 7 miles, 71 years, on a journey together. And they break bread together. This is our ritual, our service of Lord's Supper. And in that experience, the living Christ is revealed. Now, have you noticed this door is open this morning? I have. Some of you are here for the first time. This isn't normally open. This is the baptistry. This is where Baptists do our baptizing. Some of you may have grown up Baptist and you understand that. Some of you may not have grown up Baptist and you don't know how it works. There's no water in it right now. It's kind of like a big bathtub. Baptists have 2 important sacraments we celebrate together: baptism and Lord's Supper. And they call us Baptists for a reason, because we baptize in a special way at a special time. We believe that you should be baptized when you are old enough to make a decision to follow Christ and join the church. But we're happy to bless babies, have ceremonies, cuddle them, do everything else. We also believe that when you can, the best way to be baptized is to absolutely get dunked. Now, we don't insist on that, but we prefer it. Now, I want to say something. For Baptists, then, a service of baptism, one of our 2 rituals, is fireworks. Baptists get their name from baptisms. We love it. When somebody's getting baptized, they have to bring an extra set of clothes because they're going to get wet. It's not just any other day. When someone gets baptized, we act out a pageant in which you drown someone and then rescue them from drowning. It's pretty cool. And they come up and they're coughing and stuff comes out of their nose, and it's an incredible thing. But we also have a different kind of ceremony, a different kind of sacrament, and that's just the Lord's Supper. And that's very different. It's quiet. It's one foot in front of the other. You do it once a month. You do it whether you have a slow heart or whether you understand it. You do it whether you've experienced the living Christ or whether your hopes have been dashed. You do it month by month. You do it together with people you have made covenant with, and you just put one foot in front of the other. It's a quiet, modest ceremony. And then once in a blue moon, as you're doing it, the living Christ is revealed to you. And that's our hope this morning.